I like to make eyes nice and big, especially for the horses.
Hey there, Nyla here. In 2025, the long awaited graphic novel Creaky Acres arrived in bookstores. I had the pleasure of working with Callista Brill to write and illustrate the story of Nora, a young equestrian, and all of her friends. Bringing Creaky Acres to life meant drawing a lot of horses. Horses have a reputation for being pretty tricky to draw, so I thought it'd be fun to share some tips to help you draw horses. So grab a pencil and paper and draw along with me. Or just watch, it's up to you. Alright, let's dive in. I'm sorry to do this because I'm sure you clicked on this video and you are ready to get into how to draw a horse, but I think it's really important before we start drawing to prepare to draw. And part of that preparation is research. One of the most important tools in your toolkit as an artist is reference. Reference is basically an example of the thing you're going to draw. So for us, we want to draw a horse. So it really helps to look at horses. Sometimes people think this is cheating. If you're an artist, you should be able to draw things from memory off the top of your head, but that's not true. Artists at every level have to look at reference. We all have to study the things that we want to draw. I have drawn hundreds, maybe even thousands of horses at this point, and I still look at reference. I still look at horses because even I need a reminder of what they look like. Horses are very complicated animals. So here you can see I've got pictures of horses in folders, and this is just a small assortment of the number of horse pictures that I've looked at in the course of drawing Creaky Acres. You can find pictures online, you can find pictures in books. Some of you can even go to local farms and ranches in your area and look at horses in real life. When I'm researching, I like to be specific. So if I am drawing a thoroughbred, I will look at pictures of thoroughbreds. But you should also remember that horses come in a variety of breeds. So look at different types of horses. They're all basically the same shape, but they might have different proportions. When you're drawing horses, you also want to understand how they move. So collect pictures of horses doing different things. Have them walking, have them jumping, have them running, so that you can see the wide range of movements that horses are capable of. Now, I have a collection of drawing books, and in my personal library, I have books about animal anatomy. And one of my favorites is a book of veterinary anatomical illustrations, but you can actually find these illustrations online. The University of Wisconsin-Madison has veterinary anatomical illustrations in their public digital collection, and they're basically the same illustrations that are in my book. They cover a wide range of mammals, and if you go to search or browse the collection, you'll get access to all of the illustrations. You can search. There's a keyword search. I don't think you can organize these by the type of animal, but you can go ahead and scroll through the entire collection. There's several pages of illustrations, and it's pretty easy to find the horse illustrations. The benefit of this is it gives you one of the reasons we study anatomy, whether you're drawing people or whether you're drawing animals, is to understand underlying structure. If you understand what the physical makeup is of what you're drawing, and in the terms of like a human or an animal body, if you understand where the joints are, where the bones are, where there's like bone that's rigid and can't bend, where the muscle is, where the fat is, it gives you a better understanding of why you're drawing shapes and lines the way that you draw them to create the creature that you're drawing. So if you really want to get good at drawing horses, I would highly recommend to get familiar with their underlying structure. And looking at veterinary illustrations is great for understanding animal anatomy. We are almost ready to begin. I just want to take a quick, closer look at horse anatomy. What really, I think one of the things that really trips people up is the legs and the number of joints in the legs. One thing to know about mammal anatomy in particular, and you can actually extend this to birds, reptiles, and amphibians as well, but mammals in particular, we kind of have like all the same body parts. It's just proportions and our like how we stand, how we move that is different. A horse and a human, we both have heads, we have necks, we have shoulders, we have ribs, we have a spine, we have knees, we have ankles. And knowing that can be helpful in understanding horse anatomy and how it works. So, for instance, this is just a diagram I found online. So, a horse's shoulder, we've got the head, we've got the neck, and the horse's shoulder blades are essentially right here. Like their shoulder is here, the spine is here. Yeah, to be exact, it's kind of in here. And so now we can start looking at, what's going on in the leg area. So, so this is essentially like all of this is kind of like shoulder matter. Our elbow is right here. It's kind of tucked right in against the torso. And this is where terminology gets a little wonky. So this part is the forearm, but then our next joint is the knee. So you can think of, like a human being who is, let's say a human being is, mirroring this anatomy. So we've got the head, got the spine. Let's have our shoulder right here. And then their elbow is right here. And their forearm is right here. And then we've got what are essentially hand or foot joints in here. Now, horses only have one toe. You know, humans have five, or humans have 10 toes. Humans have 5 toes on one foot. Uh, a lot of mammals have 4 or 5 toes. Horses only have one toe. So from the knee, we come down to the ankle or the wrist. And then from there, we just have one toe. So it's kind of imagine like our guy over here. So I'm going to draw their hand. This is their wrist right here. And then this is their hand. And it's kind of like if this person were standing on one finger. And that's how horses stand. And so, we keep moving down the body. These are the ribs. It's the rib cage. And then we've got the hip area. And now our terminology changes a bit, but here we have the knee, this horse's knee, and then the ankle, which is almost lined up with the front knee here. And then, okay, so we've got ankle, and now we're moving down into the foot. So this whole area is the horse's foot. Like what would be for a human being, what would be our foot? Like this is all that horse's foot, same thing. And so now we come down to the toes. So these are toe joints down here. And so we're looking at 1, 2, 3 major like bendy joints on each leg. And we are going to want to remember this as we move forward to drawing our horses, because you know what you're doing with those legs is a big part of making a horse feel like a horse. And actually, like, this is a big part of how I approach horse drawings, to really tackle horse movement. I think in terms of, you know, placing the joints, figuring out where I want the joints first, and then I draw the legs. Then I like connect the dots, and that becomes the legs. I think now we're ready. Now we can actually work on drawing a horse.
The next step is to get your drawing materials and start drawing. Now, you can do this digitally with an art program, but I'm going to draw on paper to show you that you can really use any material. It doesn't need to be special. I mean, I have my special materials that I like to use, but you can use a pencil, you can use a ballpoint pen, you can draw on notebook paper, you can draw on Post-it notes, just anything. It doesn't really matter as long as you can draw. I have what is called a lead holder. It's basically a mechanical pencil, but the lead is really thick. So mechanical pencils usually come with very thin lead, but this is like super thick, and you can shade with it. And you can draw very darkly. But I'm gonna see what I feel like drawing with. Like, I have my lead holder right here, but I might also use a Sharpie. Drawing in pen and marker can be really intimidating because you can't erase, but that's okay. It's okay if you make mistakes. I don't have an eraser. I'm gonna live dangerously. Okay, well, I'm not gonna live too dangerously because I'm bringing out one of my animal anatomy books, because I just want to make sure I have something to reference as I'm drawing this horse. So I'm not going to get too into the weeds on perfect horse anatomy. What I really want to do is focus on how to simplify horse anatomy to make it easier for everyone to draw. First, we're going to focus on the horse head before we get to the body. So I like to draw horses from the side, profile view, because it's easier, honestly. Like, drawing a horse from the front gets kind of complicated. They look very strange from the front. I'm looking at my animal anatomy book again, and it's got this nice spread of horse silhouettes. And you can see how in all of them, the horse's head is pretty triangular. So like, it's a little bit like a weird trapezoid, but we can simplify that even further and say that it's more of a triangle. And so that's what's really important to remember about the horse head. It's basically a triangle with a few more shapes in it. So let's draw this horse head. And I'm gonna start with that triangle, just like this. So we're going to draw this triangle, and I'm just gonna, like, for example purposes, I'm gonna make it, you know, just a basic triangle. I haven't been in a math class in a long time. Is this an isosceles triangle? I can't remember. So now we've got our basic shape for the head. Next I'm gonna add the nose, which is more of a rectangular shape, more of a blocky shape. And we're just gonna add that at the end of this triangle, just a smaller kind of polygonal shape. And then I'm gonna add the ears. Like, I like to mark these defining features of a horse's head first. So the ear is also basically a triangle. And so already we're starting to see this horse take shape. Now the other shape that I think is really, that really defines the horse is its cheek. And they have this like really big, again, kind of a square rectangular shape for the cheek. And that's gonna go on the other side of that triangle. And I'm offsetting it just a little bit. So, part of that cheek shape is outside of the triangle. I don't like drawing floating heads, so I usually add the neck. And what thickness the neck is really depends on the horse breed. I'm not really drawing a specific breed here. I'm just focusing on getting the basic shape of the horse. So this is fine. This is just like two slightly curving lines. All right, so now we have our basic structure. I'm gonna add one more thing. I'm gonna add the eye. Now, horses have huge eyes, and you don't see the full eye because of the eyelids. So, most everyone has like a perfectly round eyeball, and it sits behind your eyelids. So you only see a very small percentage of an eyeball. But I'm gonna go ahead and draw the whole thing. I'm just gonna mark out the whole eyeball so that I know, like, this is where the eye mass is. All right. So it's not completely perfect. Perfect is not the goal. We just want it to be recognizable. So first, because it's easy, I'm gonna do the ears. And I drew a simple triangle for this, but I find that horse ears are more, you can play with this shape even more. They're more kind of a leaf shape. Like this is the main part of the ear, and then there's a little the ear kind of has a little neck that attaches to the head. And so it's kind of like a leaf shape, kind of like a dagger shape. Yeah, like what is that shape? I don't know. It's almost a diamond, kind of like this. And from the side, the way I draw this shape from the side is, this is the back of the ear, and then we come down, form a triangle, and then soften, like turn that into a curve and just soften that shape. So we're gonna do that with this ear. We're gonna make it kind of like that half leaf shape. And maybe let's add another ear here. And this is, they have two ears. So this is the right ear, that's the left ear. So we're gonna come down. I'm going to revisit this eye and add the eyelids. So the eyelids are just gonna reveal part of the eye. We're gonna leave it kind of big. This is probably too big, but I tend to draw big eyes. And so the way I'm thinking about this is, the eyeball is round. And so we want to, you could draw the eyelids so they just cut right across the eye, but this circle is really a 3D shape. It's not a circle, it's a sphere. So it's like a ball. And to show that spherical shape, to show that 3D shape, instead, we're going to have the line curve around that ball. Kind of like, the Earth is round, it's a globe, And, you know, there's this joke, if you're traveling around the globe, what's the fastest route? And you want to say the fastest route is a straight line, but in actuality, because the Earth is a globe, because it's round, you know, a straight line would actually take you off into space. If you're traveling around the Earth, you're actually going to travel in a curve around the Earth. And so that's what we're doing here. This eyelid is actually curving around the shape of this round eyeball. So we're gonna, you know, we're following that eyeball shape to create that curve. Now, the bridge of the nose is pretty straight. So we're just going to keep that straight line until we get to the end here. And I'm going to, you know, I drew just a rectangle with sharp angles, but we're going to round out this corner. Horses don't have a lot of sharp angles. You know, a lot of their edges, like the ear here, a lot of them are kind of rounded. So we're going to come to the end of this nose and round that shape. I'm going to add the nostril right in here. And we're going to continue around. We're still curving around that, you know, this box shape I drew to form the horse's mouth and chin. So I'm still, you know, we're almost turning in this into a circle. So I'm still coming around. And that's the chin, and I'm gonna stop right here at the edge of this box. Now I'm gonna come down a little bit from this triangle. You see I'm kind of thickening the shape of the horse's head, because horses have pretty, you know, they have pretty big heads. So I'm just gonna draw another straight line here to meet with the second box, which is the cheek. And we're going to do this again. We're going to round out that shape so that it feels more like a nice, soft, fleshy cheek. I'm going to just make a little line here as well to signify that shape. So that's the horse head. We're pretty much done with the basic shape of the horse head here. We just have a few more details to add. So next I'm gonna go ahead and add the mane. I'm gonna add some hair for this horse, and hair, you can really go with any shape. You can go with any kind of hair. You can go with short hair, you can go with long hair. It depends on the kind of horse you wanna make. I'm just gonna do something simple. I'm just gonna add a little mound and some lines here, and that's, you know, that's really the horse mane. I'm not going to get too detailed here. And here as well, I'm going to draw the mane down this horse's back, and I'm just adding lines here. Like, you can think about this as a shape as well. You can just draw a line to show the cut, the horse's haircut, and then just like add lines to meet that. And that's really all you need. Like, this is so simple and so fast, and it tells you right away that's hair. You know, that's all hair is just like individual strands, and you don't need to try and draw every strand. Sometimes, you know, the impulse when you're drawing hair is to do like this, and that's valid. You can do that, but you can also simplify it a lot more, and it still reads as hair. So this is essentially our horse. I'm going to finish up by giving it a pupil and what is it called? An iris? Like, I have to remember, like, 9th grade biology, what everything is. So we're just gonna darken that in, and that's, you know, now we can see that the horse has life now, like it's looking ahead. I'm gonna just add the folds of the inside of the ear too. And now the mouth, like, I find that a horse's lip tends to be kind of low, so we're gonna add that right here, and that's just a little curve. Like, we really don't need more than that. And that's the head. We're done. Now you can add even more detail. You can really start to define muscle and bone structure even within this head. I'm not going to do all that. I'm a cartoonist. I don't need to add all that detail. So next, let's talk about the horse body. Now we're gonna draw the entire horse. Now this part can get really complicated, but again, I'm gonna try and simplify as much as I can. With anything that I'm drawing, and in particular with anatomy, with people and animals, I like to start with the biggest structure. So for the head, we started with that triangle because that was the biggest shape. But for a horse body, we're gonna start with the torso, the ribs and the chest, and like all that area is really the biggest shape of a horse body. And it's just a block. It's essentially a block. So from this block shape, the next thing I like to figure out is the head, the neck and head placement. I'm partly keeping this neck low because this drawing is right here. This is another thing when you're drawing, you want to plan your, the use of your page carefully so that you have room for everything. I maybe made this a little too close to this drawing up here, but it's fine. I'm just demonstrating for you guys. The other thing is that horses don't naturally pick their heads up too high. Like, what's natural for a horse is to keep their head and neck pretty level with their torso. So, you can draw a horse that's neck is up here, but that's actually not a really natural position for them. They don't actually do that very often. More often, they have their necks kind of low. They have their heads kind of low, so this is fine. So we're gonna do that trapezoid shape that we kind of used for the head. That's almost a triangle. It's a triangle with that last point cut off. And the neck is pretty long. There are measurements you can do to determine proportions, how long the neck is compared to the torso, compared to the legs, compared to the head. I'm not going to do that. I'm just kind of eyeballing it, and just know the neck is kind of long. And then we're going to add our triangle to mark the horse's head. And that's all I'm going to do right now, because I want to get the entire body so that every step of the way, I'm generally checking my proportions. So next, I think I will do the legs, and I feel like I keep lengthening this box a little. Next, I'm gonna do the legs. So I'm using kind of a circle just to mark the shoulder area, which is at the bottom of this block. It's in the corner, the bottom left corner of this block here. And I'm gonna make this horse walk. So I'm gonna do one leg, and I'm marking this is the left leg. So I'm just marking the left leg with a line and just marking out where I want it to be. I'm gonna give it a bit of a floor too, just so I know where to stop. And I would say the legs are maybe just a little bit, like the length of the legs are probably just maybe a little bit longer than the torso is. And this, again, like horse proportions really depend on the horse. They don't have to be exact. So we've got one leg planted, one foot is on the floor. And now we're going to draw the second foot, and I'm just kind of figuring out where I want this foot to be. So remember, our leg joints we've got the elbow up here, we've got the shoulder right here, and then we've got the elbow right here, and then we've got the knee or the wrist right here, and This is like, this would be the hand or the foot right here. And then we've got our finger joints. And we've got two main joints here, and then the foot. And the foot is kind of, again, a lot of this trapezoid shape, trapezoid, rhombus, what have you. I'm just going to add that right here. And let's see. So I'm just kind of figuring out where I want those joints on this next leg. So kind of around here, I think. Just a hack that I generally use is, you know, these joints on all four legs are going to line up. Like if the horse is just standing, they're going to line up pretty, they're going to kind of be in the same range. They're kind of going to be around the same axis. So I don't want them to travel too far from that line. And then we're going to drop down. This is, what were we doing? So wrist, and then hand, and then finger joints, and foot. I've come down a little more. Like my proportions are changing a little bit. That's fine. So next we've got the butt. I've got the rear end, which is, again, kind of a block. And we're making this horse walk. So I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to bring one leg in. I'm going to bring, I think, the left leg in. So here we've got the ankle, we've got a foot joint, and then the foot, which is really one toe. Horses just have one toe. Their ancestors used to have three, Eohippus, but now modern horses just have one toe. And I'm drawing that floor again, make sure that it's planted correctly. And I'm moving kind of fast, I'm sorry, but you can, again, you can mark the leg with just a line and just get those joints in. Like I like to mark the joints with a circle because horse joints are pretty, you know, they're pretty meaty. So once again here, we've got the knee is up here, around here. And then the ankle and the foot, and now we have the toe joints. And like just this, you know, just this really outlines the leg shape. And I'm, you know, kind of got a triangle here for the foot. And from that, I'm going to mirror this line to create the rest of the leg. Like once you get these, you know, like when you're starting out with this drawing, when you work this way and make it really shape-based, it sets up the connection points to really connect the dots and finish the drawing. So now that I know where everything is, I can go ahead and define these lines to really complete the shape. And so I'm always unsure of the torso. Like even now I'm like, is that too short? But I think it's fine. So I'm going to bring, you know, right here we've got the ribs, and so I'm gonna bring the torso up just a little bit toward the knee. Just adding curve to the body, because horses they're not boxes, they're living creatures and they have a lot of curves. The back though should stay fairly straight. There's a little bit of a dip, not too much. And I'm going to go ahead and just follow that line to the neck. And we're going to do, really quick, we're going to do what we did with the horse head above. We're going to mark out the muzzle and chin and mark out the cheek and the ears, and that's our head right there. We're gonna, create that outline, and there we go with the head. And I'm going to add some hair. Maybe this time I'll do like longer hair, so I'm just making like kind of wavy lines to mark out this horse's hair, and maybe have that over, just like some tendrils over its face too. So this horse has somewhat messy hair. It needs a haircut. Okay, so now I want to make sure I'm getting my leg placement right. So we have the left leg that's up, and I think I might have done that wrong. I think I wanted this to be the right leg here, but that's okay. So we're actually gonna switch. This gets into horse gaits, which I don't want this to become a very long horse, just horse movement video. But I want to switch up. So we've got this left leg up. So now I want to switch and have the front right leg up to match that left leg. So we are actually going to make this left front foot. We're going to have that be, oh, maybe I did do it right. I'm sorry, I'm panicking for no reason. I think I did it right. So we're going to have this left leg on the ground. So right hind is on the ground, left front is on the ground. And I'm kind of like coming around with my line here. I'm coming around to really make the joints pronounced, because that's what horse joints look like. And okay, so it's, here we go. It's wrist, and then hand right here, and then finger bones. So we've got one, yes, okay. I'm just like making sure I'm doing this right. I actually think I'm drawing too many joints at the bottom here. So I need an eraser after all, but I don't have one. That's okay. So I'm kind of taking this last joint out, because I don't think it's very, I don't think we need it. Like, I think that joint is actually in here, and you don't really see it when the horse is, putting weight on that foot. So we actually don't need that. Okay, and so here we go. So once again, 1, 2, and then the foot. Okay, so that's looking good. We're gonna add the tail, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm going to just give it a nice, like, long wavy tail. And, and last of all is the eye, which I put hair right there, so I'm gonna put the eye behind the hair. And I'm gonna add just a little circle for the snout and the mouth, and that's it. So now we have our full horse. That wasn't too hard. But I'm a cartoonist, so I want to simplify this even further. I want to talk about how to draw horses that are cartoony and have character and personality. So this is still a really good reference, so I'm going to keep it close by. But we're gonna use these fundamentals and play around and have a little more fun. We're gonna get kind of fast and loose. I'm gonna draw Hay Fever from Creaky Acres. Now, for Hay Fever, I thought of him like the Prince Charming of horses. So I wanted him to kind of have a classic, just wholesome, kind and chivalrous prince look to him, which I communicated in his facial expressions and his hair. So for Hay Fever, I would start with a general, I talked about starting with that triangle, but I think, when I was drawing the horses in Creaky Acres, I kind of, would start the way that I'd start drawing any of the characters, even the human characters, which I would draw like the skull. I would do a circle for the skull and then draw the cheek and mouth area and then draw the eyes and the nose, the face. It's been a while since I've drawn Nora. And so that's how I would approach drawing a person. So for the horses, I kind of did the same thing. I would start with the circle shape, which really marks out that cheek area. And then I would draw the bridge of the nose. And Hay Fever's always smiling. He's mostly always smiling. He's always very happy. So I always gave him a nice big smile. And a soft chin. And gotta get his nostril. And next I would draw the eye. I like to make eyes nice and big, especially for the horses. Now, the humans have eyebrows. I generally didn't give the horses eyebrows unless like for Dynamo to make him look, to give him his like wild expressions, I would give him eyebrows, but Hay Fever generally didn't have one. So next I'm doing the ears and I'm making that half leaf shape. And then Hay Fever has kind of these large poofy bangs that are kind of swoopy. These are all technical terms. And so I would make like this big poof, this kind of big leaf shape with a curl at the end. And just a few lines to mark out like this is hair and it's all together. And then we've got our neck. He's got a nice thick neck. And Hay Fever is really well kept. Nora takes really good care of him. So I would give him like very obviously like clipped hair. So his hair has just a hard line that it's cut to show that like she's really been paying attention to his grooming. And that's it for Hay Fever's head. Oh, I forgot. The final detail is Hay Fever has a star on his nose. So I would just add this. It's just got one point, so it starts between his eyes and comes down a little and stops at this point and then curves back up toward the end of the nose. And that's Hay Fever. Now you can simplify the horse expression even further when I was drawing, quick thumbnails, like more like doodles of the horses, I would do like nose I would do like a circle for the head and a circle for the nose, and that, and then like these two kind of simple leaf shapes for the ears, and that's all you really need. That says horse very, very obviously. You can add the nostrils down here, but it's kind of the same principles. Now for cartooning, now we're talking about playing with proportions. And give them a little cheek, because that's really cute. Just like a little cheek shape, and kind of a thin neck. And you can, at this point, you can really play around with shapes and proportions. Let's draw like a draft horse next, because draft horses have very, very distinct bodies. They're very big, and so they kind of have a lot of soft, curvy lines. So first, I want to draw. I'm thinking about the head shape, and I'm gonna draw this kind of bean shape, because we're going with cartoony, so we can play around, we can have a little fun. So I'm going to, I'm taking that triangle shape that we talked about earlier for the head, and now I'm really gonna play with that shape. I'm gonna play with its integrity a little bit. And so instead of a triangle, I'm now kind of turning that into a bean. And I'm gonna follow that shape and give it like a really thick neck, because draft horses have thick necks. I'm trying to make it like as thick as I can possibly, as thick as I can possibly go. Let's see, like thick and short. We're gonna get a little shorter with the neck than we did before. And I think for the body, I'm going to do another like a larger bean shape, kind of like the head, but much bigger. And that's going to form our torso. And it, So my dog was barking, and I had to banish him to the shadow realm. And while I was doing that, I started drawing again, but forgot to start recording. So I backtracked a little bit. I think we're back to where I was previously. So the next thing I like to think about is what the legs are doing. And I think I'm gonna have this guy just like happily trotting. And so, first thing I'm doing is just like figuring out, I'm just like drawing lines to figure out where the legs are. So then I'm gonna come in and like draw our joints like we did before. So I always have to stop and think about it. So elbow, wrist, foot, and elbow, wrist, foot. And because we're just kind of cartooning here, I'm just like letting the legs do whatever. I'm not thinking too hard about where they are, what they're doing. I do like to be able to see all four legs. I think it's a stronger pose, so I'm just like making sure that wherever I'm placing them, they're all visible. Like you don't have the legs stacked together so that one is hiding behind another. Okay, so next I'm gonna draw the tail, and I'm doing kind of I think I want to do kind of a bell shape. I'm just deciding which way I want it to go. Drawing is anything goes. I'm constantly changing my mind as I'm working on a sketch, but I'm doing this kind of bell shape. So not exactly like this is kind of a bell shape. This is kind of what I mean. So I guess it's kind of like a cylinder. And so that's kind of marking out the shape of the tail. Now, with this short shape, you want to be careful because horses do have like bony tails, like they do. There is a skeleton in there. So, you know, the horse, like their vertebrae actually go into the tail. So there is, you know, there's bone there. So you don't want to, like, if you want to do a short haircut, you don't want to cut the hair too short because that would mean you're cutting the tail part. So you want to make sure it's just long enough that you know, there's room for that bone in there. So we're making it short but not too short. And I'm just drawing some lines to convey that it's hair. And let's see. Next I'm going to draw the ears, and to really emphasize the size of the horse, the head and the body and everything, I'm making the ears kind of small. You know, it's contrast, like big body, small ears. And so I think I'm gonna do kind of a similar effect for the mane here. So I'm giving it kind of this fringe shape. And with this, like I kind of, since this horse is moving, I want its mane to be moving too. And I'm kind of trying to think about it kind of like I'm doing the tail here. So the tail is kind of wavy like a flag. So I'm gonna make the mane kind of wavy like a flag too. And maybe I'll split that up a little, split the shape up a little. Just see, so that we can see like some of the hair, like the hair's not like, the hair's not attached on this end, but it all kind of behaves the same. Like the hair is a unit, you know, we want to think of the hair as a unit. And so it's kind of modeling the same behavior throughout the structure. Okay. So next I want to get the eye in here. I just want to mark in the eye, and I feel like it needs a star on its nose, like hay fever. It's not hay fever, but I feel like it needs a star. I'm just drawing an eyelid over here because I'm sort of turning the nose a little bit, and honestly, I like the cleanliness of just this straight line here, so maybe I'll leave it. But we're going to draw the eye now, and we're just giving it like a pupil looking backwards, and we're gonna draw the nostril, and I'm not gonna do a mouth because it looks cute without one. Okay, and so next, let's get these legs, and like draft horses have big beefy legs. So we're gonna go over our joints, and like some draft horses like Clydesdales have like more hair over the hoof, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna just like draw some hair on the hoof, and we're gonna do the same thing over here, and just make its feet kind of fuzzy, and just get the hoof is in there a little bit, but we're mainly seeing the hair that's covering it. All right, finally, we are gonna finish the torso, finish these back legs. And so we've got knee and ankle, and I'm trying to make sure to remember to draw this leg kind of thick, and the fluffy feet, and back foot as well, and fluffy feet, and just giving it a bit of a butt, and that's about it. I keep letting the paper fall, but I hope you saw most of that. And let's do one more horse. Let's do kind of a willowy fantasy horse. Now that we've done, we've done hay fever, we've done like a proper horse, we've done a draft horse, so let's do something where we're playing with proportions again. And this time I'm going to be brave and do a horse that's kind of facing us a little bit. I'm looking at the space I have on this sheet, so I think I'll actually move over here, and I'm gonna do the same thing and just get the basic structure of the head, just getting that general weird, now we've drawn the triangle, we've drawn the bean, and now I'm kind of doing something in between, and I'm gonna give her kind of a longer neck, like deciding as I go, what sort of shapes I want this horse to have. And I want her to be long and willowy, and I want the legs to be, I talked a bit about like the proportions of the legs compared to the rest of the body before, but because we're exaggerating now, I'm now making those legs longer. And so let's just kind of playing around with the shape of the torso here. Now, if I were to finish this illustration, right now I'm just sketching, but if I were to finish, I would come back with an eraser or ink and kind of like define this area a bit better, but this is fine for now. And let's see, so I'm just really kind of focusing on length here. I want these legs to be nice and long. Okay, so she's kind of just standing and posing real pretty. And so we're gonna do our same placement of everything, figuring out where everything's gonna go. So wrist and foot, and down here as well. And we're just gonna give her small feet. And we're gonna come to like the back end here. So again, I've got her kind of torn toward us, so I'm thinking in terms of 3D, like I'm thinking in terms of this three-dimensional pose. So we've got the bean shape for the torso, and the, what do you call these, the hips, the hindquarters are kind of overlapping with the rib cage, so that it looks like, the rib cage is in front of the hips, so that signals to us that she's turned toward us. And we're going to draw the ankle, and I'll just put a little floor here, and the foot, and ankle and foot. Nice straight legs. And I'm like deciding, do I want to do like little tufts of hair like I did for our draft horse, maybe for the back feet. I'm making the hooves nice and dainty and small. And now I want to come back and do our tail. And the tail I'm making very poofy and curly. And so I'm just like making wavy lines. And maybe it's so long that it even like trails on the forest floor. And that's, now that I'm now coming back to the head. I like to move around like this because you get a full view of your entire drawing. Instead of fixating on one little area, you're thinking about the entirety of the drawing. And so now that I'm back here, I'm like, should I make the head a little smaller? But I think shape-wise, I think the head is fine. I could make the ears longer, but I think I'll leave it. Now I'm gonna make this a unicorn, so I'm gonna give her a nice long horn, and for that I'm just drawing mostly a straight line. And I want it to be one of those like horns that are kind of, it looks like it's kind of curving like an ice cream swirl. So I'm making a wavy line to indicate that. And I'm gonna kind of not getting too specific about it. I'm just like adding a little more bulk here and making it like curl a bit at the end here. And again, I'm still thinking in terms of like overall design. I'm going to add the eye because I don't want it to get lost. I want to know where the eye is. And I'm giving her like eyelashes. And because she's turned to us, we can see both eyes, or a little bit of all of one eye and a little bit of the other eye. And so let's come down here and do our nostrils and our lips. And then we've kind of got the chin shape already, so we're just like curving around and defining that. Okay, so now I'm gonna give her like, I think just a fancy mane. And so I'm gonna give her hair that is parted by the horns, so there's a part here in the middle and it goes around her face and over the other part of her head. And because she's turned toward us, like a lot of the mane is not visible, but I'm gonna have some hair that's trailing down her back right here. Oh, let me finish the eye too. And now we're about done. We just need to finish the legs, and we drew our joints and our lines earlier, so it's just about adding a bit of bulk there. So I'm gonna give her like this hair on the back legs, but not on the front. I'm gonna leave her front legs kind of smooth. And we're just following around these joints here and giving her dainty feet. And we're done.
We did it! Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope you learned a lot about drawing horses. I know I learned a lot about how hard it is to talk about drawing horses, but I had fun, and I hope you did too. Creaky Acres is on sale now, so look for it in your favorite bookstore or your local library. I'm wrapping up my latest graphic novel, and I'm hoping to use this YouTube account more once I have some free time. So keep an eye out, and I'll see you soon.